One of the most underestimated forces in human attraction is confidence. It is not simply that confidence looks appealing. It is that confidence signals competence, authority, and security, even when it is nothing more than an empty performance. This is where the narcissist thrives. A man who radiates certainty in his body language, his speech, and his presence captures attention long before his darker traits are revealed. Women often mistake this boldness for genuine strength, because at first glance, the difference is almost impossible to detect. You see someone who seems to know who he is, where he is going, and how to get there. That is intoxicating, especially in a world where so many men seem uncertain, hesitant, or unwilling to stand with conviction. Confidence then becomes a kind of magnetic field. It draws people in, and women in particular often interpret that display as an indicator of reliability, power, and stability. The seduction begins not with cruelty, but with charm. The narcissist walks into a room and owns it. He doesn't shrink back, he doesn't second guess, and he doesn't ask for permission. He projects a kind of dominance that speaks directly to the ancient psychological systems wired into human beings over thousands of years. Our nervous systems respond to those who appear to be leaders, because in the past, aligning with the strong and decisive was a survival mechanism. Women attuned to the cues of status and strength often find themselves magnetized to a man who appears capable of navigating chaos with unwavering certainty. Yet here lies the danger. Narcissistic confidence is not rooted in competence but in illusion. It is a mask carefully constructed to conceal insecurity, fragility, and an inability to tolerate weakness. What makes this particularly insidious is the way the narcissist manipulates first impressions. In the beginning, confidence is not threatening. It feels reassuring. A woman in the presence of such a man feels that she has finally met someone who will not collapse under pressure, who will not falter when life becomes difficult. This projection of stability offers a sense of safety, and so, before the cruelty, before the control, before the devaluation, there is attraction, an attraction rooted in the very qualities most people are told to seek in a partner: decisiveness, charisma, and direction. But the confidence of the narcissist is shallow. It cannot withstand scrutiny. It is theatrical, a performance designed to captivate an audience. Yet performances work because they generate emotion, and emotion clouds judgment. A woman who encounters this performance feels seen, chosen, and desired. The narcissist knows how to intensify this effect by showering her with attention, locking eyes longer than necessary, and making her feel like the center of his world. This is not authentic interest, but a strategy. The goal is possession, not partnership. Still, in that moment, the difference is invisible. Confidence has done its job. It has lowered defenses. Another reason this seduction is so powerful is that many women confuse confidence with competence. It is easy to believe that someone who acts certain must know what he is doing. This is especially true in environments where hesitation or humility can be misread as weakness. The narcissist takes advantage of this bias. He speaks with authority about matters he barely understands, yet his conviction convinces others that he must know something they don't. This creates an aura of superiority, and women who long for a strong guide or protector can find themselves mistaking arrogance for expertise. In truth, the narcissist is not secure in himself. He is dependent on the admiration of others to maintain his facade. His confidence is parasitic. It feeds on attention and withers without it. The seduction of confidence is further reinforced by cultural narratives. From fairy tales to modern films, women are taught to admire the bold, the daring, the man who steps into the room and takes charge. The problem is that these stories rarely distinguish between true strength and pathological dominance. As a result, women may feel an instinctive attraction to behaviors that appear heroic on the surface but are, in reality, predatory. The narcissist exploits this conditioning, offering the appearance of the archetypal strongman while hiding the inner emptiness that drives his need for control. To understand why women fall for narcissists again and again, you have to grasp how deeply this performance of confidence resonates. It is not superficial. It reaches into unconscious patterns. Women often don't fall for narcissists because they ignore red flags, but because those red flags are not red at first. They are cloaked in gold. What looks like assertiveness is actually manipulation. What feels like certainty is actually rigidity. What appears to be strength is often just an unwillingness to admit weakness. Yet in the early stages of connection, these differences are invisible because confidence has such a profound psychological pull. The tragedy is that authentic confidence is not loud, nor is it domineering. Authentic confidence is grounded in humility, competence, and the willingness to take responsibility. But authentic confidence is often quieter, less flashy, and therefore less immediately noticeable. Women who long for certainty in their relationships can easily overlook the subtle strength of authenticity in favor of the dazzling spectacle of narcissistic bravado. In that moment, they are not choosing cruelty. They are choosing what appears to be strength. They are not ignoring the truth. They are responding to the signals that have, for most of human history, indicated survival and protection. It is only later, when the mask begins to slip, that the seduction of confidence reveals its darker side. What was once charming becomes controlling. What was once reassuring becomes suffocating. The confidence that first drew a woman in transforms into arrogance, entitlement, and disdain. But by then, the trap has already been set, because the woman has invested emotionally in the idea of who she thought he was. The seduction of confidence has done its work, leaving her caught between the memory of the man she thought she met and the reality of the man she is now with. When women encounter narcissists, they often believe they have found someone who can provide stability in an unstable world. At the start, narcissists project themselves as protectors, leaders, and guardians of order. They radiate authority and decisiveness, and this presence is intoxicating for anyone who longs for certainty in the midst of life's inevitable chaos. Many women interpret this domineering presence as strength, mistaking control for care and power for protection. It is a subtle but dangerous illusion, because what seems like security in the beginning eventually becomes confinement. Human beings are wired to look for anchors, figures who can make us feel safe when everything around us is unpredictable. Historically, survival often depended on aligning with those who seemed capable of holding their ground under pressure. That instinct remains within us. When a narcissist appears on the scene, his self-assurance, his quick decisions, and his commanding demeanor activate those deep, unconscious responses. Women see someone who appears unshakable, someone who can stand tall when others crumble. It feels like relief, like finally having a shield against the storms of life. Yet beneath that surface, the reality is far less solid. The strength projected by a narcissist is brittle, a performance rather than a foundation. The illusion works because narcissists understand, often intuitively, how to position themselves as protectors. They create a story of being the one who knows what is best, the one who sees the dangers others cannot, the one who will keep you safe if you simply trust them. They present themselves as warriors against uncertainty, and for a woman who longs for security, this can be deeply compelling. She feels as though she has found someone capable of shouldering burdens, someone who will take charge when the world feels overwhelming. The tragedy is that this protection always comes with a hidden cost: submission to the narcissist's control. This illusion of strength is often reinforced in the earlier stages of a relationship through acts that mimic genuine care. The narcissist may step in to make decisions quickly, insisting he knows what is best. He may cloak his dominance in the language of love, saying that he only acts this way because he wants to protect. He may even create a sense of danger where none exists, exaggerating threats to magnify his role as the indispensable savior. The woman, desiring stability, interprets these behaviors as signs of deep devotion and reliability. She does not yet see that what is presented as security is actually the tightening of a cage. It is important to recognize how easily control masquerades as strength. A man who insists on deciding everything, who dismisses disagreement as ignorance, or who demands loyalty without question, often seems powerful in the beginning. He seems like someone who has answers in a confusing world. Women who are tired of uncertainty, who perhaps have faced instability in their past, may find this authority appealing. They think they are choosing safety, when in fact they are surrendering autonomy. The narcissist thrives on this surrender because what he offers is not strength but dominance disguised as protection. The distinction between true strength and narcissistic illusion becomes clearer over time, but by then many women are already entangled. True strength empowers others. It creates room for growth, mutual decision-making, and respect. It stands firm without needing to crush or control. The narcissist, however, cannot allow others to stand beside him as equals. His so-called strength depends on diminishing those around him, ensuring they feel weaker so that his dominance appears greater. In the beginning, this manipulation is invisible because it looks like leadership. Later, it reveals itself as tyranny. Another layer of this illusion comes from cultural conditioning. For centuries, women have been taught to value the archetype of the strong man who will shield them from harm. Stories, traditions, and social expectations often reinforce the idea that protection and control go hand in hand. Narcissists exploit this conditioning. They step into the role society has glamorized, presenting themselves as the fortress every woman should desire. But what is forgotten is that a fortress can also be a prison. Women mistake the walls for safety, not realizing that those walls are designed to keep them contained as much as they are meant to keep dangers out. The illusion of strength also plays on the vulnerabilities of women who have faced instability or trauma. If a woman grew up in an environment where chaos was the norm, the narcissist's rigid control can feel like order. She may unconsciously equate his strictness with safety, because in comparison to past uncertainty, his dominance feels structured. What she doesn't see at first is that this structure is not built to support her, but to serve his need for power. Her longing for security blinds her to the fact that real strength does not need to dominate to be effective. Over time, the mask begins to slip. The woman who once felt safe starts to feel suffocated. The man who seemed protective now feels oppressive. Decisions that once felt like acts of love reveal themselves as tools of control. The woman realizes she has not gained security but has lost freedom. The illusion of strength has inverted itself, transforming from a source of comfort into a source of fear. What looked like stability was only rigidity, incapable of adapting or responding with compassion. What appeared to be protection was only possession, a way to keep her dependent and contained. The illusion of strength and security is powerful because it offers something every human being desires: the sense that someone strong has your back, that you are not alone in the fight against life's chaos. Women who fall for narcissists do not do so because they are blind, but because they are human. They respond to the cues that, throughout history, signaled survival. Unfortunately, in the modern context, those cues are often exploited by narcissists who weaponize the very instincts that once kept us alive. The promise of security is never fulfilled because the narcissist cannot give what he does not possess. He does not have real strength, only the fragile performance of it. And once that performance begins to crack, the illusion shatters. The heart of the narcissistic relationship trap lies in the cycle of validation and devaluation. At first, the narcissist overwhelms his partner with affection, praise, and attention, creating a flood of validation that feels intoxicating. He knows how to make a woman feel like the most important person in the world, as if she has finally found the partner who sees her worth completely. This stage is often referred to as idealization, but it is more than simple flattery. It is a psychological strategy designed to create dependency. By flooding a woman with positive reinforcement, the narcissist builds an emotional high, and once that high is established, he begins to withdraw it strategically. What follows is a cycle of giving and taking away that keeps his partner trapped, constantly chasing the validation that once came so easily. The early stage of validation feels like falling in love amplified. The narcissist pays attention to every detail, remembers the smallest things, mirrors her desires and values, and creates the illusion of perfect compatibility. It feels as though he understands her better than anyone else ever has. This is not accidental. It is calculated. Narcissists are skilled observers of human behavior, and in the beginning they use this skill to construct an image of themselves as the perfect partner. This mirroring builds rapid trust and emotional intimacy, convincing the woman that she has found someone who not only sees her, but cherishes her. She feels special, chosen, and elevated. This stage imprints deeply because it creates a powerful contrast between how she felt before and how she feels now. But the validation cannot last. The narcissist does not give love freely. He gives attention as a means of control. Once the woman is emotionally invested, once she has anchored her self-worth to his recognition, the devaluation begins. He withdraws the attention that once came so freely. He criticizes where he once praised. He grows distant where he once was intensely close. The very behaviors that made her feel alive and adored are suddenly absent, leaving her confused and desperate to regain what has been lost. This is not random. The withdrawal is deliberate because the narcissist knows that the hunger created by the absence of validation is more powerful than the satisfaction of its presence. This cycle mirrors the dynamics of addiction. The brain becomes wired to associate the narcissist with the highs of validation. When that validation is withheld, The woman feels withdrawal, just as someone addicted to a substance would feel when deprived. The pain of devaluation becomes so sharp that she will do almost anything to earn back the narcissist's approval. This keeps her locked in the relationship, convinced that if she just tries harder, if she just changes herself, if she just proves her loyalty, she will get back the love that once seemed endless. But that love was never real. It was bait, and the cycle ensures that she remains trapped in pursuit of something that only exists when the narcissist chooses to give it. The cruel genius of this cycle is that the validation, when it returns, feels even stronger after the period of devaluation. When the narcissist decides to be kind again, when he offers a rare moment of tenderness or recognition, it feels like salvation. The woman experiences immense relief, a surge of joy and renewed hope. This intermittent reinforcement is one of the most powerful forms of psychological conditioning. It trains the brain to tolerate mistreatment in exchange for brief moments of reward. The unpredictability of the cycle, never knowing when validation will return, creates obsession, because the mind clings to the possibility that the next moment will bring the longed-for affection. Over time, the woman may begin to doubt her own perceptions. When the narcissist is cruel, she tells herself it must be her fault. When he withdraws, she believes she must have done something wrong. When he returns with validation, she feels redeemed, as if she has proven herself worthy again. This creates a distorted reality in which her self-esteem is no longer rooted in her own identity, but entirely dependent on his shifting approval. The cycle erodes her confidence, replacing it with insecurity and self-doubt, while simultaneously deepening her attachment to the very person who is dismantling her sense of worth. What makes the cycle so destructive is the way it distorts time and memory. In the midst of devaluation, a woman holds on to the memory of the validation stage. She recalls the intensity of the affection, the promises, the sense of being cherished, and convinces herself that this is who he really is. She tells herself that the cruelty must be temporary, that the man she fell for is still there beneath the surface, waiting to return. This hope keeps her locked in place. She is not holding on to the reality of the relationship, but to the illusion created in the beginning. And every brief moment of renewed validation reinforces that illusion, making it harder to see the truth. The cycle of validation and devaluation is not just emotional manipulation. It is a weapon. It keeps women in relationships that slowly dismantle their self-respect. It fosters dependence, ensuring that the narcissist remains the center of her emotional universe. What begins as love quickly becomes captivity, but because the bars of the cage are invisible, built from hope, fear, and longing, it can be almost impossible to recognize until deep damage has already been done. This is why women often describe leaving a narcissist as one of the hardest battles of their lives. They are not only walking away from a person, they are breaking free from a cycle that has rewired their perception of love itself. In the end, the cycle of validation and devaluation explains why women feel so deeply entangled with narcissists, even when the relationship has become destructive. It is not just that they are manipulated emotionally, it is that their entire sense of value becomes tied to the approval of someone who withholds it at will. What looks like love in the beginning is, in reality, a system of control. And once caught in that system, the desire for validation becomes a trap more powerful than any chain. To understand why women continue to fall for narcissists despite the pain that follows, it is essential to look inward at the role of unresolved personal vulnerabilities. Human beings do not approach relationships as blank slates. They carry with them the imprints of their upbringing, the lessons of past experiences, and the scars of old wounds. These hidden vulnerabilities act as invisible magnets, pulling women toward patterns that feel familiar, even when those patterns are destructive. A narcissist often unconsciously recognizes these openings and exploits them. What begins as an innocent search for love and connection can become a replay of unresolved struggles that trace back years, sometimes even to childhood. For many women, the roots of vulnerability are found in early family dynamics. If a girl grows up in a home where love is conditional, where affection must be earned, or where attention is sporadic and unpredictable, she learns a distorted view of intimacy. She may come to believe that love is something she has to fight for, something unstable that can vanish without warning. This internalized belief makes her more susceptible to the narcissist's cycle of validation and withdrawal. When he showers her with attention, it feels like the love she has been longing for. When he withdraws it, it feels painfully familiar, like the inconsistency she already knows. Instead of recognizing the manipulation, her subconscious interprets it as an opportunity to finally win the love she could never secure in the past. Unhealed wounds often manifest as an excessive need for approval. Women who never felt fully seen or valued may carry into adulthood a deep craving for recognition. The narcissist's initial phase of idealization feeds this hunger perfectly. He tells her she is extraordinary, that she is unlike anyone else, that she completes him. These words reach into the deepest part of her longing, filling a void she may not even fully acknowledge. But because the wound is unhealed, the satisfaction cannot last. Once the narcissist begins to devalue her, the old wound is reopened, and she becomes desperate to close it again by regaining his validation. Her vulnerability locks her into the cycle, because leaving him feels like abandoning the possibility of healing the pain she has carried for so long. Past relationships also shape these vulnerabilities. A woman who has been mistreated before, perhaps by a partner who was cold, dismissive, or unfaithful, may unconsciously gravitate toward a narcissist because the dynamic feels familiar. This is one of the paradoxes of human psychology. We are often drawn not to what is healthy, but to what we recognize. Familiarity, even when it is painful, feels safer than the unknown. The narcissist exploits this by recreating the emotional environment she already knows. She may tell herself she is simply unlucky in love, but in truth, she is reenacting unresolved dynamics, hoping for a different outcome. Low self-esteem is another critical factor. Women who doubt their worth often see relationships as a way to validate their existence. Instead of entering a partnership as an equal, they enter it hoping to be chosen, to be told they are enough. The narcissist recognizes this need and provides the illusion of affirmation, at least at first. He positions himself as the one who grants her value, and she internalizes the belief that her significance depends on his approval. Over time, this belief becomes a prison. The lower her self-worth sinks under his criticism, the more she clings to him in the hope of restoring it. The very person who dismantles her self-esteem becomes the person she turns to in desperation to rebuild it. Unresolved vulnerabilities are not always born of trauma. Sometimes they stem from cultural and social conditioning. Many women are taught from a young age to prioritize others' needs over their own, to be accommodating, nurturing, and forgiving. These traits, while admirable in balance, become dangerous when exploited. A narcissist thrives on a partner who will tolerate mistreatment, make excuses for bad behavior, and sacrifice her own needs to maintain harmony. The woman believes she is being patient and loving, but in reality, she is enabling the cycle of abuse. Her conditioning has left her vulnerable to manipulation, disguised as partnership. What makes unresolved vulnerabilities so dangerous, in the context of narcissistic relationships, is that they often remain invisible to the person who carries them. A woman may not consciously realize that her attraction is rooted in old wounds. She may interpret her longing as love, her endurance as loyalty, and her suffering as proof of commitment. In reality, she is reliving unresolved pain, hoping that this time the story will end differently. The narcissist cannot provide that resolution because he is not interested in healing. He is interested in control. Yet the woman remains caught because her heart tells her that staying offers a chance to finally rewrite the script of her life. The tragedy of unresolved vulnerabilities is that they blind women to healthier alternatives. A partner who offers consistent, genuine love may feel unexciting compared to the dramatic highs and lows of a narcissistic relationship. Stability can seem dull when one is accustomed to chaos. Authentic care may even feel suspicious, as if something must be wrong if love comes without struggle. Until the underlying wounds are acknowledged and healed, the pull toward destructive partners remains strong. The narcissist does not create the vulnerability, but he magnifies and exploits it, ensuring that the cycle continues. To break free from this dynamic, a woman must confront the vulnerabilities that keep her tethered to harmful patterns. This is not about blaming her for the narcissist's behavior, but about recognizing the places where old pain has left her open to exploitation. Only by addressing these wounds, whether through self-reflection, therapy, or conscious change, can she begin to resist the pull of the familiar and embrace the kind of love that nurtures rather than destroys. Until then, unresolved personal vulnerabilities remain the silent force that draws women back into the arms of narcissists, making escape feel nearly impossible even when the truth is visible. One of the most powerful forces that keeps women tethered to narcissists is the mistaken belief that they can redeem them. This belief often emerges from a deeply human impulse, the desire to heal, to rescue, to bring light into dark places. Many women enter relationships with narcissists not only because of attraction, but because they sense brokenness beneath the surface. They notice glimpses of vulnerability, subtle cracks in the mask of arrogance, and they interpret these as signs that the narcissist can be changed with enough patience, love, and sacrifice. This is the savior fantasy, the idea that with the right amount of devotion, one can transform a wounded man into a whole one. It is a noble impulse, but in the context of narcissism, it becomes a trap. The narcissist, whether consciously or unconsciously, encourages this belief. He may reveal moments of fragility, sharing stories of a difficult past, hinting at pain that no one else has ever understood. He may frame himself as misunderstood, mistreated, or unappreciated by the world. To a woman with a compassionate heart, this evokes the desire to nurture and protect. She thinks she has been entrusted with a secret, that she alone sees the real man behind the facade. In those rare moments of apparent vulnerability, she feels special, chosen as the one who can finally reach him where others have failed. But these glimpses are not signs of change. They are tools of manipulation. They keep her invested in the hope of redemption, even as the abuse continues. The mistaken belief in redemption also stems from cultural conditioning. Women are often taught that their role in relationships is to soften men, to civilize them, to be the force that transforms them into better versions of themselves. Stories, films, and even religious narratives celebrate the woman who endures hardship and, through her perseverance, saves a man from his demons. This narrative can be powerful, but it is dangerous when applied to someone who is fundamentally unwilling to change. The narcissist does not see himself as broken in need of healing. He sees himself as superior, entitled, and justified. Her efforts to redeem him are wasted, not because she lacks strength or devotion, but because he has no interest in redemption. The tragedy is that women often mistake endurance for strength. They believe that staying through mistreatment, holding on to hope, and sacrificing their own well-being is evidence of loyalty and courage. In reality, this endurance is what the narcissist depends upon to maintain control. Every time she forgives, every time she rationalizes his cruelty, every time she convinces herself that things will get better if she just tries harder, she reinforces his behavior. He learns that he does not need to change because she will stay regardless. The belief in redemption becomes the chain that keeps her bound to someone who will never meet her halfway. It is also important to understand that the narcissist thrives on this belief. It flatters him to know that someone is so devoted, so determined to save him. It confirms his sense of importance, making him feel like a figure of such depth and complexity that only a special woman could possibly understand him. This illusion of being hard to love but worth the effort is intoxicating for both him and his partner. For her, it feels like a noble mission. For him, it provides endless permission to exploit her compassion. The more she invests in the fantasy of his redemption, the deeper she entangles herself in his world. This mistaken belief is further reinforced by intermittent reinforcement. On rare occasions, the narcissist may show what looks like progress. He may apologize, admit fault, or temporarily change his behavior. These moments are not genuine transformation, but tactical pauses. They are meant to reset the cycle, to give her hope that her efforts are finally working. She clings to these moments as proof that change is possible, ignoring the fact that the overall pattern remains the same. The illusion of progress keeps her locked in place, convinced that if she just continues a little longer, the breakthrough will finally arrive. Another factor that fuels this belief is the projection of her own qualities onto him. Women who are empathetic, self-reflective, and capable of growth assume that others share these traits. They cannot fathom that someone could refuse to change because they themselves would never remain stuck in destructive patterns if it hurt the people they love. This projection blinds them to the reality that the narcissist is not motivated by the same values. She imagines that his cruelty is a mask for hidden pain, that his arrogance hides insecurity, that his withdrawal signals fear of intimacy. While these interpretations may hold some truth, they miss the larger reality. Even if he is wounded, He has no intention of healing in a way that makes him a better partner. The mistaken belief in redemption ultimately becomes a form of self-betrayal. A woman pours her energy, love, and resilience into trying to save a man who does not want to be saved. She sacrifices her own well-being, convinces herself that suffering is noble, and delays her freedom in the name of a transformation that will never come. This belief allows the narcissist to continue his patterns unchecked, while she carries the burden of hope that slowly erodes her spirit. It is not her fault that she longs to heal and to redeem. That impulse is one of the most beautiful aspects of human nature. But when directed toward someone who weaponizes it for control, it becomes the very thing that traps her in a cycle of despair. When you bring all these keynotes together, the pattern becomes undeniable. Women do not fall for narcissists because they are blind, foolish, or weak. They fall because narcissists understand, often instinctively, how to exploit the deepest longings of the human heart. The seduction begins with confidence because confidence signals competence, and in a chaotic world, competence is magnetic. It deepens with the illusion of strength and security because people crave protection, and the narcissist projects the image of a guardian while hiding the reality of a tyrant. Once the bond is established, the cycle of validation and devaluation takes hold, creating a psychological addiction that is as powerful as any substance. Women find themselves tethered not to the man as he is, but to the memory of the man he pretended to be. Underneath all of this lies the weight of unresolved vulnerabilities. Old wounds, unmet needs, and familiar patterns make women more susceptible to the narcissist's game. They are not simply choosing him. They are replaying stories that began long before he entered their lives. And layered on top of these vulnerabilities is the mistaken belief in redemption, the hope that through their love, their patience, and their endurance, they can transform him into the partner they know he could be. But this hope is misplaced, because redemption cannot be forced on someone who refuses to change. The real reason women keep falling for narcissists is not a single factor, but the convergence of many forces. Psychological conditioning, cultural narratives, emotional wounds, and the manipulative brilliance of the narcissist's strategies. What appears at first to be love is often a trap designed to exploit the very best parts of a woman: her empathy, her loyalty, her resilience. And until she learns to recognize the difference between authentic strength and its counterfeit, between real love and manipulation, the cycle is destined to repeat itself.